feed to stream over to Instagram. We're live on YouTube, so that's cool. There we go. All right, and we're going live on Instagram right now. So let's see, make sure that's working. Every single episode, we got to act like it's our first time. What's that?
I said, I wish I knew how to link my YouTube page to this because it picked up a lot of followers and I just haven't been back there in months.
Well, we're live on YouTube now, at least on one account that has maybe 20 followers. So, we're kind of big time here.
But I hear you.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Sawdust Talk. It's episode number 94, which holds no special value other than it's bigger than 93. So, hey, we're doing better than we were last week. We've got an awesome guest tonight. We have Shane Peters from Shane's Custom Hardwood, which I feel like is exactly what it's implying. So we're going to find out more about that. TJ's running just a minute late, but you know him. I'm Braden from Little Bug Woodworking. I'm here in Omaha. I do a little bit of everything. And before we get into everything, we want to thank our sponsors, Surf Prep and George Supply Co. And normally I have a big banner here, but I took it down because I have clamps up here now. But we appreciate everything that they do. They make the show maybe not possible. We could probably figure it out, but it's more fun with them. So we like that. Shane, how's it going?
It's going great. So I'm Shane Peters. I live in Fullerton, California, and I'm looking forward to telling everybody about how this thing started. It's an absolute crazy story. It was just one fluke after another that just snowballed into something that I had to actually create a business behind, like get a business license and logos and all kinds of stuff. It really got out of control for a while. It was bad, actually. It got to a point where I was going to my regular job from like 6 a.m. until around 4 or 5 at night, and then woodworking until 10 or 11 at night. And that was 7 days a week. And then on weekends, it was just all day. So my wife had gotten to the point where it was about to be divorce time. So I was able to kind of figure out how to scale everything back. And we've got it pretty dialed in now. So, I mean, dialed in just means everyone just has to wait. So that's what that is.
Wait times mean exclusivity. Like wait times are good. I mean, they're not great, but usually there's a lot of value to having a wait time.
I thought that I thought I would maybe get rid of some of the people who were trying to get orders from me by saying like, it's going to be several months. And they're just like, we'll just wait. Not one person turned the other way. And I offered like deposits back and everything. And everyone just says, no, we'll wait. So my list is still pretty long, but I am churning them out now and just kind of I do a couple nights a week, 2 or 3 nights a week, just 2 or 3 hours a night, and then a little bit on the weekends. But that I've got it pretty tame now.
So why don't we start the story with what we're talking about? What type of product do you make, or like what's your niche? What do you make?
Well. Right now, the only thing I really post about, other than silly stuff, is these multi-layer, multicolor logo inlays. These epoxy inlays that I do. That's the only thing that people really care about. I can do coffee bars or big river tables and all this other stuff, and everyone just like dance, epoxy monkey dance. That's all they want to see. So I don't even bother posting any of the other things that I make. Any furniture, tables, stuff like that. I just kind of keep it around this. But this is all what's crazy about this. So I'll start out with this because people who really know me know that like I really have a big passion for this epoxy inlay stuff, and I love sharing the information. I share it with anybody who asks. I don't try to like patent anything. And so many people told me, "Oh, patent this idea with the overlaps and stuff," and I'm like I said at one point because I know it sounds nuts, but before 5 years ago, you just didn't see people with 2-color epoxies touching. There was always a wood border in between. And unless they were just pouring and kind of letting it flow and looking all beautiful like that. But I'm talking about like actual logo work where there's a color touching a color, and then a fourth color coming in between all of them. And it's honestly as well, let me say what I was going to say. So I love sharing this stuff with people. I make sure on Instagram I come across as the GOAT, the epoxy god, all this crazy shit. But honestly, like where my heart is sharing this information with everybody, because there's so much room for everybody to be doing this. And it's not as hard as people might think when they look at the finished work. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, like how did you do that? But it's actually just a simple process that is very time consuming. That's the thing. When you get into like 20, 30, 40 colors, and the project is back and forth to your CNC machine for like a month, and then something happens at the end. I won't even talk about that story, and it's a complete start over. You have to put in the time. So I'm thinking like, well, it's possible someone else tried this and then just said, like there's this, like right now in the garage, I have a piece going that has been cutting for over 3 hours. So to do these, you almost have to abandon the thought of oh man, okay, a CNC machine running, that's X amount of dollars per hour. Oh, that's 3 hours just for the color black tonight. Add that up. No. Like you're never going to come whole on this. This is really like, this epoxy logo stuff is really a passion, and you got to really want to do it and be into it. Now, 2 or 3 colors, that goes quick, but I'm talking like the really detailed stuff. So, So I just kind of wanted to say, like, if anybody has any questions, they can always message me. There's a lady that helps me in Colorado. I've never met her, but she manages my Instagram messages and lets me know when when someone asks something that needs an answer from me, and I can get back there. And then so many people already have my cell phone, and that's just the best way for them to get a hold of me. So that being said, let me just take you to the beginning, if that's cool, and I'll tell you how this whole thing started. So. I referee hockey, and I tore a rotator cuff about 5.5 years, actually almost 6 years ago now, coming up in this December. And I was going to be off the ice because it was like a full tear. The surgeon told me I'd be off the ice for like 10 to 12 months or something like that. So I figured like, well, what am I going to do on the weekends just to stay busy so my wife doesn't kill me for being in the house and, having, just like breathing down her neck, So I thought, oh, you know what I'll do? I know what I'm going to do. My grandfather was a master woodworker, and I've always loved woodworking. So I said, you know what? I had a 13-inch DeWalt planer, a Porter cable benchtop jointer, and a DeWalt tailgate contractor saw, the 10-inch. Those are the only 3 tools that I owned 5 years ago that had anything to do with woodworking. And I thought, you know what I'll do? On weekends, I'll just make cutting boards, like end grain cutting boards, and that's it. So I make up some cutting boards, and I went on this site called Etsy, which I had never heard of, but a friend of mine set up an account for me on there. So I was like, okay. So I was looking around and like just looking for like equivalent size and specs, like, okay, 24 by 18 by 1.5 inches thick. They're selling it for, $380. I'll sell them for $350 at that size just to try to get a few sales. Well, 24 hours had passed after my posting a few boards, and I didn't have any sales. And I was like, I've only got 10 months to do this. Like, it's time to, like, I got to get the ball rolling here. So I had just finished doing a table for my wife that I'd been working on and off for like 3 years on, where I used to work. We leased part of our garage or part of our shop to a wood flooring company, and they had these great tools. So I was able to get like live edge slabs and build bases and use their tool. They were really cool with that. So for about 3 years on and off, I just was building this live edge table for my wife with like a root system for a base. Absolutely epic. And when I made it, I turned down $8,000 for it. I got offered, and I was like, no, this is like a one of a kind piece, and I'm doing it for my wife. I'm not taking the money. Well, I get this great idea to say, well, since my cutting boards haven't sold in 23 hours, I even asked the guy on Etsy. I was like, hey, no offense to your board, like it's beautiful, but I mean, if yours is $380 and mine's $330, like, and I'm not getting any action, like, how long does it take? The guy's like, oh, dude, it could take a year or so to get clientele built up. And I'm like, I've got 10 months, dude. And then it's all like, I named this Shane's Hardwood just so my 70 followers on Instagram, who are my hockey buddies all around the world, because I'll travel around to do different events in a bunch of different countries, just so they had to say Shane's Hardwood, like a dick joke. That was it. Honestly, this whole thing was just a total joke. It was nothing beyond that. So anyway, I put the cutting boards up, and there was nothing in 24 hours. So I get this great idea. I said, I just finished this table for my wife. Jimmy, just put it on there and just list it. And he's like, well, how much you want to list it for? I said, well, just put $5,000 because no one will spend that on Etsy. That's like a mom and pop thing. I don't even know what Etsy is. But just so they don't think I'm crazy. But that way they'll see it and they'll go, holy shit, if he can do that, then his cutting boards must be nice, type of thing. So that was a Friday. On Saturday morning, I woke up and I came downstairs and I saw I had an Etsy sale overnight. So I was super excited. I scream upstairs. I'm like, babe, we sold the cutting boards. I run in there and I look and all my boards are there. Now, I didn't mention to you that I never told my wife that I was listing her coffee table because I wasn't going to sell it and I don't want her to freak out. So I go in there and all my boards are there, but there's $5,000 in my account, like pending. And I'm just like, oh no, I just sold my wife's table that I just finished. And I didn't even mention to her that I did it. So now I'm starting to panic, panic setting in. I'm just like, oh, I'm in big trouble. Like she loved this table. And I sent an email to the buyer who was the Etsy name was Jules Jade 71. And I sent her a message hoping like, not saying like, hey, we got to back out. I wasn't supposed to sell this. Just kind of like, if just to see if she said like, that was too much. I'd like my money back. I would gladly refund it. So instead I get an email back just talking about how like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to put this in my home. I live down here in San Diego and my husband's a Navy SEAL and I was an adult film actress and all this stuff. So right away, my brain starts going like, oh, adult film actress. Like, what'd she say? So I look at her Etsy name. That's how I remember it was Jules Jade 71. So remember, I'm downstairs. My wife's upstairs. I told her we sold the cutting board. And then in between that, I got this email back in like 10 or 15 minutes and I'm reading it. And I'm Googling Jules Jade porn in my phone just to, I'm just like, well, I have to see if she's lying. So sure enough, these videos come up and I'm sitting there. I'm just like, look at this video going like, oh my God, this lady bought my table. It's crazy. And I feel this kind of presence over my shoulder. And it's my wife. I look like this and she's just got this look on her face and she's like, really? I'm like, no. I say, so I just take my phone and I'm like holding it up to her going, that's not what it looks like. I said, this lady just bought our coffee table. And at that point, she's like, that's the worst excuse I've ever heard for someone getting caught watching porn, And I'm like, no, like, look, just read the emails. You're going to see what I'm talking about. So she reads the emails and now she's no longer upset that I had porn on, but she was just a bit upset that I sold her table. So, but then I'm thinking to myself, well, I can't like renege on this lady and not give it to her because if I get a negative thing on Etsy, my very first one, the next 10 months are screwed. So I just put that. Now, remember, there's no epoxy. I've never even touched epoxy in my life, ever in my life, or seen it on a shelf. Like I don't even remember ever seeing it anywhere before, after this. So, in a CNC machine, like what the hell is that? I have no idea what that even means. I still don't know what CNC stands for. Anyway, so oh gosh, where was I before that? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You sold it to the porn actress.
Oh yeah. So yeah, right. So I go to deliver the table finally after about a month of, back and forth and trying to like, just make sure it's like finished perfect and all that kind of stuff. And I've never had so many people volunteer to help me move a piece of furniture in my life. Like they're just lining up I've moved a lot of times and I've never had this kind of help, being thrown at me. So right. My cousin says, hey, I'll go with you. So my cousin Butter. So I tell him like, yeah, okay, let's do this. So I said, I have a good idea. On the way there, let's stop at Stater Brothers and get a couple honeydew melons because what I want to do is like when I get there, I'm going to give her this cutting board as a gift and I'll stand behind the counter fully clothed. But I figured like I could put a melon on each side and then have her post something that says like, oh, doesn't Shane's hardwood look good between my melons? Something like that, kind of funny, but like clean enough to where there's no nudity or anything. It would be fine.
Sure.
Well, because I wanted the cutting board thing to happen. I wasn't going to be starting to sell tables. I just wanted the cutting board thing to happen. So I go there to deliver it, and this driveway is like a mile long, and I stopped way too soon because I felt pretty uncomfortable, like getting too close to the house. So I get out, and I walk up, and I meet them at the door, and we're talking, and she's in a really bad mood. Like, and this Navy SEAL, he's like just ripped. I mean, just a tank. And she is like basically dragging him around by his ear. And by the way, Jay, if you're watching, I love you. But that's what was happening. So I'm like, okay, like she is in a terrible mood because they had people coming over and this was supposed to be a quick thing. And I got to get the hell out of here because she is like not happy. And I'm like, I am not doing the whole like, hey, can you put these on there and talk about your melons? Because like her husband would just fold me up. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not doing that. Well, I turn around and here comes my cousin. He's jogging up the driveway with these melons. And I turn around just like this. I turn around like this and I just go. So I'm sure they saw it because you're far from me as I'm like, and he does this big turn. He turns back and he runs back to the car. So to this day, we've never talked about that with Jay or Julie and myself. But I know in their mind, they must have been thinking like, what, is this guy coming over thinking he's having lunch? Like, why is he bringing honeydew melons here? Like, I know it's never made sense to them ever because I never told them about that. So I come back from that, and just a few days later, I'll kind of speed it up here. I have what's his name? I'm sorry, Jason Kaplan from the Stern Show, one of the producers there.
Yeah.
I was talking, he's a big barbecue guy. So I was talking to him about wanting a cutting board and stuff like that. And then before you know it, it's like stuff for the whole cast. And I'm flying out there and got a studio tour and all this stuff and deliver. It was great. Like, it was just an epic time. Well, then I come back because they had followed Jules. So I think that's how they saw the first thing. When I come back, I'm getting other messages from other adult film actresses about making cutting boards. And I'm like, whoa, like, first of all, cutting boards and porn to me just is like a complete separate entity. Like, they shouldn't be together. So I've got to like steer this thing to get it out, So were you going to ask something?
I was just going to ask, okay, so at this point, did you have epoxy involved or
no?
not?
Like, these are tell you that. So at this point, I've just now just having people wanting cutting boards from me. So I go and I saw on the internet someone take this router template and just use the hand router and routed out like a heart in a board and then poured this epoxy in there. So I'm like, I'm gonna give that a try. Man, you would have think I invented sliced bread the first time I did like a one color pour. I was like, man, and then I got it all shined up. I'm running around like I was going door to door like I was selling candy bars. Like, look at this, look at this. Like, just couldn't believe that I had made this thing. And then that's what I was doing, just single color pours like everyone else, or with a wood border doing other colors. And then I'm not kidding you when I say one night in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was like, babe, you got to write this down. And she's like, what? Like, I'm sleeping. Like, what are you talking about? I said, I have an idea for how to make the colors. Like, we don't have to have a wood border anymore. And she's just like, shut the fuck up and go to bed. Like, what are you doing? Like, whatever. So, because if you, I always tell people with this logo in mind, that yellow circle with the black eyes and the black smile, that smiley face logo, it's like, one of the famous like happy face logos ever. So I just thought to myself, like, and I'm sure, I don't know how anyone never did this, but just cut the yellow circle and let it cure, and then cut the eyes in the mouth and pour it, and then flatten it, and boom, you've got that. So now I figured I kicked it into high gear, and these boards are starting to sell because of like the Howard Stern Show attention and stuff like that. There was just a long line of people who were just like looking to get one because they figured like, oh, if Baba Booey has one or whatever, like, or any of those guys, like, or Fred or Howard, like, I want to get one. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff. And I was starting to mess with the epoxy. So I went from like 2 to 3 to 4 colors. And I'm sorry, I went to like, I was still doing one color. I'm sorry. And then I had to get a CNC machine because I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to do this, it's too hard with these templates. So I was looking around for CNC machines, and I almost bought, was it Axiom, I think is one of them, and the Shark HD or 4 or something. Those hobby ones that are at like Rockler.
Yeah.
And then I started looking like up a level. I was looking at like Onefinity, which is a nice one. And then I reached out to Laguna, and the salesman there, his name was Jacob, just super cool dude. And he like totally hooked me up. Well, I don't know if he hooked me up. It was about $7,000 for Laguna IQ. So it was about double what I wanted to pay. But I've always been somebody who's like, I want to get like, I don't want to get like have something breaking or doing it, because I didn't know anything about those other ones. And I know the frames were kind of wobbly on the Axiom one and stuff like that they had at Rockler. So I just sprung for the thing. Now, when this thing showed up, I was like a 5-year-old with the remote control for one of those giant helicopters that has 8,000 buttons on it and no clue what to do. Like I could turn it on and turn it off and move it around. And then I've never worked with any software either. So it was completely self-taught. So for a while, I was just cutting, instead of having to go pay some dude $25 per template for a heart or for a Michigan logo or for Georgia or whatever, Green Bay. Now my machine could make it. So I figured out that part. And then I started trying to do like more colors and more colors. And I just figured out, like, because of the V-bit, if you figure like if this was the level of the top of the board and then down to where we cut it, when a V-bit comes in, it does like this. And you only go to the outside of the vector. So if you have a V here and a V here, when I flattened down, there was like a space of wood in between because they met. So I knew I have to overlap and pour it bigger and then cut into it on the epoxy. So when I pour it and flatten it, it's perfect. So I spent a lot of months trying to figure that out, like exactly how to do it in the correct order and all that stuff. And then and the whole time I was like giving this information out and posting stuff, and the account just kept like picking up steam. Like fast forwarding to now, it's like complete full sponsorships of epoxy and pigments and tints, machines. Like I honestly so undeserving of anything like that, because I tell everybody I'm like a giant bald monkey, like an idiot. Like seriously, if I'm able to do this, anyone can do this. You just have to be stubborn enough to put in the fucking time to like not want to give up, because like, oh my gosh, I just spent 11 nights in a row going back and forth doing all these colors, and I just put an eyeball in the wrong place, and it's a complete start over. So that there was, and but believe me, before any kind of where I was getting everything for free, there was, Nancy, are you listening?
Yes.
There was only thousands, tens of thousands. There was thousands of dollars of mistakes and learning and just, that I'm sitting there going like, oh, well, there goes another, chunk of money gone, trying to figure, like, start over, because I just never have it in me to like tell a customer like, no, it got ruined, so here's your money back. I just keep going until it's done. I mean, I've seriously gone through some of these places and done like 2, 3, 4 boards for a person. They have no idea. I just give them the final one. In the beginning, I'm talking about. Now something could happen. Obviously, it can happen to anyone. But for the most part, I've got this thing dialed into a complete science. Like, I've got people reaching out to me too, talking about like, hey, let's get you in a studio, and let's we'll announce it, and people can come in, and we can, do like a 2-color thing or a 3-color thing, a set deal. Everyone can, do their own and run the machine and all that kind of stuff. I say, that sounds great. Let's do that. So hopefully that's going to happen in 24. I would love to do that, to be able to like, get this word out there, because I always say it like this, like honestly, and I really feel this way. Somewhere along the line, you've seen like, the inlay, like the wood inlay with walnut with maple, the famous walnut maple, right? Somebody somewhere was the guy that went like, let's see, I'm going to do this. And now there's thousands of us doing those inlays. You know what I mean? There's room for more. Like there's no like shortage of people out there who want this product. Trust me when I tell you that. And so, which means there can be plenty of us doing this. And it's not like, oh, they filled up my spot. Trust me, I'll show you my order list. Like we need several dozen of you right now getting into this and taking some of these orders, because there's plenty of it, and they're not cheap. Like people spend a lot of money for this stuff. I would never buy one of these for myself. Like I would never spend this kind of money on a cutting board with my logo on it. I'm just not that into barbecuing, but a lot of these guys, these barbecue teams or these famous chefs and stuff, oh, they go crazy. And then a friend of mine got aboard to the CEO of Traeger. And after that, it's like it's nuts. And then the CEO of Vans, we surprised Steve Van Doren with a board after his father died, Paul Van Doren, the founder of Vans. I don't know if you ever saw my Vans project, but it's a really cool one to see.
Is it that checkerboard one?
Yes. Yeah. With Paul and
Yep.
Steve on it. Yeah. So we got that presented to him. And I mean, we're talking like, that's like an $1,800 board. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like people are just, buying them willy nilly, and you would think like, and it's now an $1,800 board. But when I was first doing it, I did it way too cheap. So what I tried to do to get people to slow down from ordering, because it was causing so much friction with my wife and I, because I was just buried in these orders and trying to get out the door, 300 bottle openers, magnetic bottle openers, or 150 cutting boards with, epoxy for Ronda Rousey and Travis, her husband. They ordered like 60 of them with like epoxy, 2-color epoxy inlays for their Wagyu beef company they have in Riverside. So it's stuff like that where, man, then she has a billion fans, and then those people want to call. So it's never, there's plenty of people out there that are looking to buy this kind of stuff, and there's room for everyone. But it's just insane how this went from, like, I didn't even know what epoxy was. I had never worked with it. I didn't know how to run a CNC machine. I didn't understand the software. I still don't. I tell people, I know about 6 or 7 buttons on VCarve Pro, 6 or 7 of them. That's all I need. That's all I use. I know if somebody came over here and watched me do a project, they'd go, you could save yourself, 80% of your time if you just did this. I'm positive there's something like that, but I have no time to even like, people tell me, they send me these YouTube videos. Oh, just watch this. Just watch this. I've never watched one. Like, I'm so busy that like, I can't even see, I'm just like, whoop, I'm just moving forward with what I know. So the people who really know the software would really take advantage of this.
So what I'm hearing here is, and this is for all of the listeners, if you're undercutting the market on cutting boards, and if you're charging like the 25, 35, 45, like you're undercutting, stop it. We could be doing $1,800 boards with a little bit of epoxy and a little bit of crazy.
Just wood boards from me. I'm going like 75 cents per cubic inch. Like it's 75 cents if I'm going to glue up wood. I'm not talking about a logo or a laser burn or nothing yet. This is just a wood cutting board. So, I mean, that works out to a pretty decent price for a cutting board. But I'm telling everyone right now, 75 cents per cubic. Don't go lower than that. People will have to buy them. we can drive it to make that happen. And I got to the point where I was like I tripled my prices and then tripled again. It's like, it's nuts. And then it just made people want it more, which was really weird because I was trying to push people away. And then it just made it where then they're like, oh no, well now give me two. I was like, what?
And that's kind of like the rule of thumb that we're all taught is the second that you can't keep up with your orders, it means your prices aren't high enough. And you need to up your prices, because the customers that you lose will be offset by the increase in price.
Oh,
it sounds like you haven't hit that point. It sounds like you just keep raising the prices and you're still backlogged.
I've been on the same price line now for about a year, and I'm still backlogged, but I'm not really taking many new orders now unless it's like a customer who I've worked for before. I'll make another board or a third or some of these guys, like they're on their fifth or sixth board from me. Like it's crazy. And they want like a different, like, oh, I want this one with my beef rub logo. And then this one with my chicken rub logo. And they just want them in there in full color. So I guess that, and then Traeger sending me like a grill and a flat rock for free. It was insane because I don't even know how to barbecue. I'm the guy that like my family would secretly not want me grilling anything. She's laughing in there. Yeah. They're like, oh God, please don't put that on the grill. These Traeger, you can't mess it up. Like it's insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm the best barbecue chef in the world now. It's nuts. I don't even know how. Like I don't know. It's like an oven on wheels. It just works perfectly. So
yeah, and that's why I have a Traeger. Is you turn it on and you just put it on there and then you just leave. Like it's fine. Just check on it every
later, whatever time you want. Day 2, your food's great.
Yep, it's like the sous vide of like the barbecue world.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we got a question that I think is somewhat time sensitive. In fact, this is the only question that's been asked more than one time. Did your wife ever get her coffee table?
Yes.
Did you ever remake it?
I could show it to you. You want to see it?
Yeah, let's see it.
This one's beautiful, but not. I don't like the base on this as nice. I'll post the one that I did, but hold on. Let me just try to turn this to.
I sound like a horrible, mean person the way.
You're not horrible. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then let's see. It's got like a wood. Oops, sorry, the animal thing is under there. So I don't know if you can see the wood. And there's like a stump is the. I don't know how to work this. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So
no, that looks cool.
Yeah, it's a nice table. It's real similar to the other one. It's the same style, but the other one had like a long base, almost the whole length of it, and it was all just like driftwood, just like all one piece, but really skinny, like wide enough to be support the table. But it was awesome, and I hate that sold, but from what came out of it after thinking like, oh no, I really screwed up. Like it was a good deal. You know what I mean? Like a whole business came out of an accidental sale.
Man, this whole thing started from accidentally selling a coffee table for your wife to an adult film actress on Etsy.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, you were absolutely right. I couldn't have come up with that with the hours, days of time. That's not in any way how I would have come up with this entire business of yours springing up.
This entire thing, from like messing with epoxy with a hand router and a like 2-sided tape with a plastic template to where it is now. all within the last 5.5 years. It's just insane that how quick it went, like, and the time flies. And the good thing now is, like, people who are into this type of thing, I'm really looking forward to being able to kind of put on classes now and then, because like, it's a lot of fun to do. And I think if people just started trying it, even just like 1 or 2 color logos, stuff like that, and then they see how nice they look when they're done, this will totally catch on. I know it will.
So have you considered making like YouTube content, like tutorials, things like that, so that people can learn how to do it? Have you put out anything like that?
I have a YouTube page. It's the same name, Shane's Hardwood, on YouTube. And on there, I do have 3 or 4 at least instructional type of videos that show my overlap process and some other stuff. And then a lot of it is just my Instagram thing. So I'm still in this thing where when I post something, I'm always thinking like, okay, it's got to be you get to the point as fast as you can and grab their attention, or forget about it. So like I make all my videos like 59 seconds long, and I just like a quick, 1 color, 2 color, 3 color, 4 color, 5, and then a quick flattening, and then boom, there it is type of thing. Where YouTube, they don't like that. The YouTube people are like, all the guys are like, dudes, like, take 3 hours, like, just slow down and just tell me all about this. So right. I do need to get back on YouTube and do some videos. And I have a really good friend now who actually, I met him. He reached out to me through my Instagram page and was like, hey, like, I've never seen anyone doing what you're doing. Like, I'd love to come and see this in person. Can I come by? I live in, I know you're in Fullerton. I live over here. I was like, yeah, come on by. I'll tell you whatever you want to know, like, come on over. That's Rob Sandstrom. And he's been so much help too, because he's like a real woodworker. Like, the guy's like got a ton of knowledge. He's a really smart dude. He's not like me, like, just like 2 marbles in here rolling around that just know how to do, certain things. And then that's it. Like, he's got and I think it kind of drives him crazy too, because he's like doing all this great stuff, and his YouTube page will have like, I don't know how many, I don't want to guess because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know how many followers. And then mine, where I've been on there like 9 times and just basically took Instagram content and just posted it without any kind of time consumption at all. More people are just kind of jumping on there and following it. And that actually came a lot after, because do you use Vectrix software or?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So they reached out to me and they was like, hey, we've never seen anyone do this logo stuff with the epoxy with our software before. Would you mind like coming and talking and speaking about it? We're going to come to the US because they're over in London. So I said, yeah, sure. Like, that'd be great. So for the last, I think 3 years now, I've been going and either virtually or going in person to do like, to speak at these things and kind of talk all about the process, and then do a little giveaway with some, like last year we did some gnomes I made and gave those away. So it's a lot of fun. And the best part about this too, that I didn't say in the beginning, is like all the people I get to meet, like talking with you, and I'm pretty sure TJ will be jumping in here soon. Like, meeting all the people that I've been able to meet in the woodworking community, because I've always loved woodworking. I'm just a big fan of woodwork. You know what I mean? Like, I know how to do it, but I by no means consider myself like the wood whisperer or anything like that. Epoxy, that's a whole nother deal. I got a lot to tell you about epoxy, but when it comes to woodworking, I step back and I listen to all guys like you that know what the hell you're talking about, how to make everything fit nice. Believe me, I'm ready to, like, on a monthly basis, I'm ready to go find someone like, hey, who can come over here and like just get my table saw, my saw stop just perfect, or get my Powermatic jointer, get that sucker just dialed in perfectly. I'm not that guy. Like, I'm just not. I'm the guy. Pay someone to come and do that. I'm not the like master woodworker at all. I'm fortunate enough to like have these companies they were blown away enough in the beginning to be like, oh, so now there's like this line of epoxy people and colors and pigments. And I just went with the stuff I love and that I use. So every month they're just, they're sending this stuff. It's great. Laguna, with this big CNC they gave me, it's nuts. Like, it's impossible to think that anything would ever come from something that started just from me trying to have my friends say Shane's Hardwood. You know what I mean? That's all this was supposed to be. And to now have all the, the blessings that come in behind all the stuff. It's why I love to like give back and give the info and like share it with people. And the people who don't know me, though, the ones who just like look at my Instagram and I'm standing there with the stupid belt at the end, and Like, oh yeah, the epoxy guy. They're just like, oh, look at this arrogant prick, you know. And so, and I let them go. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter to me what someone thinks. Like, people who know me, and that's all I'm really concerned about. And I think they also, a lot of people always say like, oh, we love how like humble you are. I'm like, I'm not humble. I'm just dumb. Like, I'm dumb and I know it. That's not humble. I'm able to tell the truth.
Shane, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that you give yourself enough credit. I mean, you're teaching the Vectric people how to work their software in new ways. I mean, that's amazing.
It's cool, but believe me, every day I'm waiting for the other shoe or the rug to get pulled out from underneath me. Whatever. I just don't ever go down that road and start thinking that way. Honestly, I just try to stay like where, okay, you know, tomorrow everyone's going to say, you know, to be on the back of like I know it's the back, not the front cover, but to be on like a back of some stupid like Epoxy Works magazine, which is like a nothing magazine. But man, that was great. Like I have that thing framed right in my game room, right over there on the wall. So you can see a bunch of my pieces. You probably can't see it, but like there's a bunch of my pieces on the back cover. So, I mean, it was super cool. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, honestly would still probably be with West System, but they came up something where they were like, we're not able to send epoxy anymore because you don't work on boats and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, like that's okay. Like there's no hard feeling. I still follow West System. I still would recommend their 105-206 combo. It's a great combo if that's what the product you have to use. I've used so many different epoxies, and honestly, they all can, like, I could use any epoxy and do what I do for sure, and it would look magnificent. The one thing I like about, I'm not trying to plug here, but I right now I'm with Moss Epoxy, and you use Shane 10, you get 10% off and free shipping. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So Moss Epoxy, the thing I love about it, they have this LV epoxy, which is low viscosity. And then they have a slow, a fast, or a medium hardener. So you can, like, I can literally get sometimes 3 or 4 colors poured and cut in a day in the same piece with the fast. The reason I don't use the fast too much unless I'm in a really big hurry, because I like to spend a little bit more time heating and stirring the stuff to kind of get that, you know, that nice finished look out of it. Right. But this is the first epoxy I've ever seen where I can go with the slow and work, you know, in 12-hour shifts with it, medium about 6-7 hours, and the fast is like 3 or 4 hours. You're able to take it back to the CNC and cut into it already. It's crazy. So, you know, I would recommend people try it, but honestly, I would never want to tell anyone like, oh, you have to use this kind to do it. You can give me any epoxy and I'm going to show you a piece that, you know, is going to blow your mind. It's just a matter of like, if I use a 1-to-1, I'm going to have to wait 24 hours before I want to cut into that, because I know with that fine detail, it's still just too soft and it gets caked up in there. And then you spend 3 hours trying to like scrape out the grooves with another bit to try to get it to where you can pour in there. It's just better to make sure the stuff is totally cured before you cut into it. And with the Moss LV and with the fast, that's like 4 hours and you're good to go. It's like it's been sitting for 2 days.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the odd thing about epoxy is like figuring out that sweet spot of being able to work with it and not work with it. I use Total Boat Epoxy, and when I first got their high performance, I got medium hardener, thinking, oh, medium, that's slower than fast, but faster than slow, that sort of thing. And I was used to working with a different epoxy it took a while. And so I did this, you know, the thing where you stir in a bunch of colors and all that. And I was doing rainbows, and I mixed all my colors, and I was ready. Like, I'm going to do a bunch of little pours. Actually, it's for one of,
they were forming up in the cup.
Yeah, it was for one of these. And I go and I get the colors, and I go and I look, and the first color, the red, is like starting to smoke. And I'm like, I was convinced that was something that didn't actually happen. That was just
it was a myth.
Yeah, that was, it was like people egging houses on Halloween. Like, that's just something from TV. Right. And next thing I know, like, all of my epoxy is starting to like set fire. And so, yeah, I mean, epoxies, it's such a fickle thing to work with.
It is. And, I make sure. So another, hey, good to see you, man.
This is not TJ. We've got Kimani tonight.
Yep. I see Kimani there.
There was epoxy talk and I had to jump in.
Yeah, good. that thermal reaction that happens is nuts. Like, there's been times I've just gotten like just flat out lucky with that whole thing, not ruining my house because, what I was going to tell you is, all my kids have moved out. I have 3 kids now that are all moved out, and then 2 grandkids in Hawaii. They're stationed with my son's stationed there in Hawaii, so they live out there with him and his, my daughter-in-law. And so I was able to turn all the bedrooms that used to, be their bedrooms. I have now the epoxy room. I've got a oiling room, a toolbox room, all that kind of stuff. So I just turned it into like a wood shop inside, and then my garage outside. And then I had to buy a big shed in the back because Laguna gave me one of those MX lasers, the CO2 lasers.
Yeah.
So I had to buy a shed to put it in because I'm like, well, there's just no more room. I can't put it in my house. Well, I'll die. And then in the garage, there's no more room at all. So I spent like $2,000 on this stupid shed out back, like $2,500 for like an 8x15, which I think I might have supposed to get permitted, but I don't know. And just to house the laser. Yeah, exactly. Believe me, the city's not up watching this. They need to fix the roads.
Okay, so you have a lot of fans that are in the comments on Instagram. Rob's watching. Hannah from Surf Rap is just losing her mind.
Oh, I love Hannah. And is Mary there too? She's told me I know she's watching because she's tuned in. I was going to tell you. So one thing I'm looking forward to with as far as Surf Prep goes, is I know they're a sponsor here and everybody loves them. Is their grits on their paper. Right now I'm using, and I don't post much about this, but I'm really looking forward to like being able to use all the nice sanders that Hannah's given me and stuff like that in videos. But right now, because of the grit that I need to achieve and getting up into the 4,000s, I'm just not able to do it like comfortably or willing to like try it on a piece. Like, so I think we're going to be talking about them, getting into like the, I don't know if it's going to be the mesh, but right now using that Merca, that mesh, that like auto net or something like that. Yeah, it is great stuff. I mean, it's stuff just, I take all these pieces from like 120 up to about 4,000 or 6,000. And then I can jump over to a polish, 3-stage polish from 3M, I think it is.
Man, I'm feeling bad because I run mine up to like 220 and I call it good.
You can do that if you do a pour over. That's the best thing. I love to do wall pieces now. No more cutting boards. I wish everyone would just order wall pieces because I can sand to 180 and then just clean it off with some trisodium phosphate and then, do a clear pour over the top. Perfect. Like it's been buffed to 20 billion. You know what I mean? Like it's the best. So that's my favorite is doing those wall pieces because you can I flip it over on its face first and I hit the back good so it's sealed and down the sides. Then when that cures, I flip it over and I get the bubbles off the front and I just go over the front and then do the same thing and then it's done. I mean, it's just like no more buffing or polishing or nothing. It's great. By the way, if my customers are listening, it's still very, very hard. So the price needs to stay where it is.
I mean, heck, you said you're getting it all the way up to 4,000 and then you're like this. We're talking hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
4,000 grit isn't cheap. So.
No, it's not. And that's not something, see, that's something that, so like wood and sandpaper, I still have to buy those. People, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So yeah.
What the heck? We're raising prices.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't make me raise my prices again. So, and I have no business crying about that because like I said, I'm so fortunate, so blessed to have like RIP Precision Tools and, sending me whatever I need and the epoxy companies and the liquid from Mixol and the powders from Eye Candy. Like it's great. So that's right there able to let me like do these boards for what I'm doing, which I still think is pretty high priced, but without that support there, they'd be a lot more expensive,
Yeah. So just keep this in mind, customers. If his sponsors drop him because he's not doing silly content, prices go up. Just keep that in mind.
Yep.
So your boards, you have like some really solid colors, and this is something I've never figured out. Like your colors are a steady single color, like it almost looks like it's paint. You're getting that with a pigment epoxy or with like a pigment coloring?
Yeah. So how the process goes for me is I almost never use a powder without a liquid. but I will use a liquid without a powder a lot. But if I'm putting a powder in a cup to make the color, I'm always going to put some kind of base behind it because you still want to get that swirl and stuff like that. But there's I don't know how much to tell you to put. I don't even know if I'm dealing with ounces or gallons or what the hell. I just like put pumps in a cup and look at it and just kind of, add
It
stuff.
becomes muscle memory after a while.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And that's the other thing too, is that people always ask me like, how do you get your colors to match so well? And I said, well, what I always say is, when God was handing out superpowers, I would be able to fly or to see through ladies' clothes or turn invisible or something. But he gave me this ability to be able to like look at a color and know if you give me black, white, blue, yellow, and red, I can make any color. Like any color, I just can make it. So, and that's always drove, I know Rob is watching, and that always drove him nuts. Like, how do you make, it's like, I can't tell you, man. I don't know the answer. I wish I did. It's some stupid thing. Like, it never really benefited me until now. And I've had that my whole life where I could make colors, but I've never had a job where I needed to. So this hobby, that kind of worked out nice to be able to do that. Oh, so always put a base behind when you're putting powders in there, and it's going to look a lot more solid. And obviously, the more liquid tint you use, you'll even start to get it to where you won't even see much swirl with that powder anymore if you use too much. So there's like a kind of, depending what you want. So for like skin tones and stuff like that, I'm not using any powder in skin tones. So it's always going to be, no matter what color the person is, it's always just going to be base liquid colors to get it kind of flat, and dark, not to be where you can kind of see through it or anything like that, but like nice and solid. And then for like clothes, any kind of like items like a barbecue or a hat or any stuff like that, I almost always go powder with a liquid to get that kind of like that swirl, or sometimes you can also just use them to where like if you don't stir it, it just kind of sparkles. You know what I mean? So you can get like a swirl to a sparkle type of thing, just depending on what I'm doing. So I try not to put, like, if I'm swirling one thing, the next color is probably going to be a sparkle, and then I'll swirl on the other side. It's like been this thing I've just always kind of, tried this and tried that. That seems to be the way, at least I like to look at it. So, and customers don't seem to complain. So I figure I'm doing it okay,
If they keep buying, I mean, it seems like you're doing it right.
Yeah, they keep buying.
Yeah. Some of your earlier pieces were very motivational for me to try to do some of my own color inlays. So I did when I first got my CNC. I think this is before I started following you. I did my first kind of like, it was just a two-tone like Thundercat coaster, and like that was like my crowning achievement of being able to like get the red, get the black, get it to look exactly right. And then I think most recently, where I actually layered multiple colors on top of each other, was I did a small logo for wall control just to try it out, because I wanted to be able to like try it out. But yeah, I got some of the RAP precision bits. I'm looking, and I think it was one of your kits. I think you have like a recommended like bit set or something with them.
Yeah.
So I got that one because I was looking into doing more of the like really detailed, like, go in with the ball, go in with the 15 and the ball nose and really layer it in. So my next year is to do a full color inlay and also do a wood inlay.
Hey, how good is that feeling though when you were doing those with the black and the red, like when you first saw that? Isn't that the greatest feeling in the world when you do that? You think like you're king of the world, right?
Oh yeah, like when it worked, like when it like I guess it was more so when I CNC'd everything out and it didn't screw up, and I was able to apply that second color. I was like, it's good. So yeah, no, and it's just that learning. But yeah, being able to like you said, hit it with that 180 and put that top coat on, and I have like
best. Yeah.
So
I know, and it's weird to say this, but I'm not lying to you guys at all. Every time I'm finishing a project, it is just like that first time. Like, honestly, it's the greatest feeling, like finally flattening that thing down and seeing what's underneath all that crazy pour that I'm doing, because I try to make them look as messed up as I can during it. Like the one I'm doing now of my friend Ned and Christy, a couple, I'm doing a big wall piece for them. And she's got a full unibrow going across her head right now, just how it sits now. So, I mean, it's so much fun because people are going to look at it and go like, what the heck? And then, they'll see the flattening and go, oh, wow. Like, that's so cool. So it's more of like a wow factor is why you see me over pour so much. when I'm kind of getting all over the place, just making it look messy. That's really why I'm doing that, is just because like I'm just looking to have it look like a total disaster and then flatten it. And then, oh my gosh, that was under there.
You got to hype it up for the reveal.
Yeah. Look at this guy. The guy getting all the free epoxy, talking about overpouring. Here we go.
Honestly, you know what? That's true. I should apologize for acting that way. Because people always like, oh, why do you do that flood coat in the so what I like to do now is like I'll take the whole silhouette of whatever the logo would be. So let's say it's going to be Kimani's head. So I would do this whole logo, and I would go outside like 200ths or 300ths more of an inch, and I would do like the outside vector of the thing. I would just offset a little bit more, and I would pour that clear, and I'd pour it deeper. So most of my stuff I'd cut like a 0.125 deep, but that first pocket I cut it just a smidge bigger and a smidge deeper. I cut it 0.15, and then from there I go 0.125. The reason I do that is because then everything when I'm cutting into it and it's coming out of there, the sides and the bottom are epoxy. So there's no epoxy trying to get into that wood and causing bubbles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That thing.
Yeah.
But I do realize that I'm an asshole for like recommending that, because not everyone's getting epoxy shipped to them every month to where they don't have to worry about that. It doubles your cost. You're putting in all clear to cut the clear out and put back a color. It's using exactly twice as much epoxy. So I know it is wasteful, but man, does it ever work good. But you can also do that piece by piece if you just brush coat on some clear epoxy and let it seal too. But you just can't do it for the whole silhouette, because then obviously there's nothing to cut into there. It's already, at its depth. So
as somebody who's had staining from epoxy pours, it doesn't sound like a waste. It sounds like a really good way to do it. So
it's a really good way to do it. If you're looking for not having a headache of bubbles attacking you, then.
Or a lot of sanding sealer and shellac.
See, I've never used shellac, but I've always told people like, yeah, that might work really well. All you're looking to do is seal the wood, so epoxy's not trying to penetrate and then send bubbles up, because the bubbles just ruin your piece.
Yeah, if I'm doing for some of my test pieces, if I'm doing like the wall control piece, I used it was just MDF because I was just trying to test it all out. So did sanding sealer, cut the pocket, put more sanding sealer in there, and sometimes I'll do like a shellac based sealer, and it just seals, because it's just so porous. So like really get a good seal in there, and that way. And I do a slight over pour, just enough till it's like gives you that little dome of epoxy, and then it flattens out because it'll absorb a little bit. But
a little bit of shrinkage.
Yeah, just a little shrinkage. But same as you get that.
I was in the pool.
It was cold.
Kimani, I don't think it's the same as me. I get a lot of shrinkage. Okay, I'm pretty sure if you and I both walk out of a pool, everyone's gonna go like, Shane has a lot of shrinkage.
I think they should wonder why we're both not wearing pants. But that getting that base layer of epoxy before you do that cut is like it's the easiest win you can do when you're trying to do these multi-layer cuts.
Otherwise, it could be a nightmare fighting those bubbles the whole time. It's never ending.
Yeah.
Sometimes you know how it is. They just don't. You never get to the end. Like it cures with bubbles in it, and then you have to cut it out and redo it anyway. So might as well just poured the clear base, or it sealed it.
So as we're getting kind of close to the end here, and we haven't talked about somebody that I get the impression is important in your life, and this kind of connects back to the surf prep stuff. The only time I've actually seen you using a surf prep sander was actually somebody else in your shop doing something inappropriate with a surf prep sander.
Oh, Cousin Kevin.
Why don't you tell us about Cousin Kevin?
Yeah, I can get Cousin Kevin if you want really quick.
We got a second. We can talk to Cousin Kevin.
Give me 1 second.
This is either going to be like the greatest ad to an episode ever, or this is going to be the moment that it left turned on to me. This is it. It's one of the two. There is no middle ground.
This is the episode you decided to roll the dice?
Listen, if we're going to do it, I mean, this is the time to do it. But I cannot believe the amount of detail that goes into Shane's stuff. Like, it is bananas.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, just the I think I saw some of his earlier pieces of like some of the family portraits where it's just like, everybody's smile and face and the eye, eyebrow, just the same.
Okay, I found him.
Oh, buddy.
He had to go get him from the back shed.
Yeah, he was out front playing with himself.
Out front?
Yeah, gotta watch him.
Shane, are you taking your pants off?
No.
'Cause I'm gonna be upset.
No.
Gonna get us demonetized before we even get monetized.
Hey, y'all.
Oh,
Cousin Kevin.
Now, Cousin Kevin isn't a pussy like Shane. Cousin Kevin will talk about some shit. So, yeah, Cousin Kevin. People love Cousin Kevin. So I had to make Kevin up because, I had to have someone to blame all my mistakes on. Honestly, this is how this started was if I messed up a board or something like that, Cousin Kevin would have to take the blame. Like, oh, yeah, I messed this up and now Shane's mad at me type of thing. So I just it's like almost like a split personality where I can argue with myself. So all the bad stuff comes from Kevin and all the great stuff that gets all the attention was my idea. My wife just said, not real.
I'm not convinced. I think he's a real person. I think you're just hiding him. But you've got some interesting content with him. And again, just never seems to have pants on. So.
Yep. That's we don't have time now to talk about it, but my life before this whole thing with woodworking, I actually, like I told you, I travel around reffing hockey all over the world, different countries, and my thing was, and I still I have these albums. Because I was going to make a coffee table book called Balls Around the World. So not anything but the balls, not the chef, but I would go to famous places and I would just pull them out, just have them hanging out of the zipper, and I'd get photos with famous people or photos with police officers or in famous buildings, all these different places. I'm talking probably 30 different countries. I got kicked out of Notre Dame church for hopping the railing and getting one next to the Pope, the wooden Pope that was laying there, getting one with them hanging up. Yeah, they kicked me right out. So I'm banned from there forever. So yeah, that was my thing before this woodworking thing. And then I thought, well, I better cut back on on the other hobby because no one's going to follow your Instagram if you're running around putting your nuts all over the place. So that's how that goes.
What's this indent in my cutting board?
This looks like is this a deviled egg tray? Oh my Lord. All right. And with that, we're coming up on an hour. And I feel like it's either we pull the plug now or we just let it run until the early hours of the morning. So we want to thank our sponsors. Thank you everybody for listening. Surf Prep, thank you so much. George Supply Co. If you guys need not epoxy, if you guys need sanding equipment, sanding setups, dust extractors, go get them. Sanding will still absolutely suck. It's the worst. Nobody can convince me otherwise, but it sucks a lot less with Surf Prep materials and Surf Prep machines. So, and George Supply Co., I can stick anything to anything with George Supply Co. Adhesives. So go check them out. Make sure you guys check out the Maker Project that's going on right now at Makers for St. Jude. It's the last month or the main month there's a bunch of different donation type projects where you can win a bunch of prizes from a bunch of different makers. And it raises money for St. Jude's. And if you're not against childhood cancer, this is the wrong place for you anyway. Get out. Shane, thank you so much for being on.
I appreciate your time.
It was a hoot. Kimani, thank you for hopping in last second when obviously TJ wasn't feeling great. It's either that or you're TJ and you just got a tan. So,
or TJ saw me and went, I'm not going in there with that idiot.
Shane, we like to wrap up each of our episodes with our viewer or our guest sharing something with our viewers, something inspirational, something motivational, something that makes them want to kick open the shop doors and just go make something or get started or just do something. What have you got for us?
You mean show you a project or tell you something?
Tell us something. We want, this is like the quote, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Michael Scott.
Yeah, look at this. This pinball machine back there. Stern, I did a sign for them. They sent me that. That's Super Checks. They sent me that. You just got to just start sending stuff out. How it started for me was sending free stuff to people in the very beginning. And then once your stuff catches on, the doors open up and it's just a flooding of blessings, honestly. All jokes aside, like I'm very blessed and I know it. And aside from that Instagram persona of like the epoxy guide stuff, hopefully you guys know now, like this is a passion for me and I love talking about it. And I'm always willing to come on and share tips and tricks to, how I got through some stuff. I really wish I had someone that lived close that would be able to come over here and like just kind of help with content, because there's so much information, but just I don't have the time to like put all the stuff together and tell you like, oh, this is why you have to overlap 0.05 because at this depth that I would love to talk about all that, but it's just really tough because it's one thing to like film myself doing it, which I'm still bad at. I don't know how to do screen recording or none of that stuff yet. So, but if I had someone doing that, I think I could get a lot more information out there. So I think next year I'll try to do some classes and get people to kind of come in and pass the information that way. And then hopefully I'll get better at my social media game and content creation.
All right. So what I'm hearing, just to wrap it up, is if you're not selling your cutting boards for several $1,000s, you're missing the boat. So
yes, for some reason,
$60 cutting board, people, knock it off.
No, wood's too expensive. There's no $60 cutting boards.
75
cents per cubic inch for a wood cutting board. That's where you start, and it goes up from there.
Yeah, you do cheap cutting boards. We're gonna send cousin Kevin cousin Kevin after you. He's gonna put you right.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening, and we will catch you next week at the same bad time, same bad channel. See you guys.
Thank you.